Lankan Sammi, retired with mom and dad. Welcome to my channel. I am a Canadian Sri Lankan citizen, semi-retired here. Beautiful, beautiful Sri Lanka. It's a partly cloudy day today. Early morning, I don't know, at 10:30 in the morning, I decided I would go for a walk. I haven't done a walkabout in a while because it's been so busy with my schedule and my calendar that I haven't had the free time. So I figured, you know what? I am gonna go do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna come out here and I'm gonna talk to you guys about why I think the 80s were the best time to be alive so far. I was born in 1968, so the 80s for me, I started the 80s, I was 12 years old. So why don't you join me? Click the link down below and comment. Let me know what you think. Or do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What year was the best for you? Let me know right after this. Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. For those of you who are new to the channel, I'm a semi-retired Canadian citizen, Sri Lankan citizen, retired with my parents here in beautiful, beautiful Sri Lanka. I live in Jayala, which is just north of Colombo and south of the airport, so halfway. And I've been here about 3 years. I'm a citizen. I got my citizenship about 5-6 years ago. But anyway, I'm 56. I was born in 1968. I'm single, no kids, no debt. That's a beautiful thing, no debt. I'm divorced, 20 years? Yeah, no kids, thank goodness. There's many stories about my life, but what I wanted to talk to you guys today about, and I really want you guys to tell me what you think, because, you know, I don't have kids, I don't have a lot of friends, so my situation is more about, my curiosity is that I've experienced, you know, I was born in 1968, but I was a teenager in the 80s, and I was a young man in the 90s, and then in the 2000s, right? So I've seen the world go from analog to digital, from the propeller age to the space age. You know, I've seen a million things happen in the world. I've lived through a lot of history. From, I mean, I was only 6 months old with the moon landing, but, you know, I was alive. The fall of the Soviet Union, 9/11, you know, everything, Chernobyl, you know, Afghanistan. I mean, I was too young. I kind of remember Vietnam, kind of. Elvis Presley dying, John Lennon being shot. I remember vividly being homesick one day and seeing the live news of President Reagan being shot. I vividly remember that. So I have these memories of, I have these memories of my life, right? Historical memories. But what I can remember, and you know, this is just me, is that the 80s, the life I had in the 80s and the times I had in the 80s were the best when I look back over my life. But why? And that's what I want to talk about today. Now, guys, if you're new to my channel, I don't script this. I pick a title, I pick a topic, or someone asks me a question, right? And then I talk about it, because that's just all my channel is. I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. We're just sharing ideas. And I want you to join my community. I want to develop family, that's crap. I want to develop a group of like-minded people who either agree or disagree. I mean, one of my really #1 supporters, Darren, and I, we really don't agree on a lot of things. He has different ideas and different opinions, especially when it comes to finance. I mean, we're good friends. We've met many times here in Sri Lanka. But we don't argue about it. He has his point, I have my point, and we don't always agree. But I appreciate his opinion because it gives me insight into things that I may or may not appreciate. Everybody knows, like say for example, everybody knows when you ride a motorcycle, you got to do this, you got to do that, right? Everybody knows that. But if there was one thing that should be told that maybe I'm not aware of, and that, like say for example, when you're driving on a road, always on a turn, never touch the brake. Even on a slight turn, always on a turn, watch out for rocks, because you hit a rock, the wheel will go sideways. So those are the kinds of things, yeah, I never thought of that. So this is the kind of thing that I want to develop in this channel, is where people can get together and talk about ideas when it comes to retirement and share not what you should do. And that's where I come into play. I'm not a lifestyle guru or a travel vlogger or a restaurant vlogger or a tourism vlogger. I am doing this as a digital diary. I am talking about what I have done in my life and the mistakes I've made. So hopefully you all can learn from these mistakes and not make the same ones. And I do talk about the challenges I have today and the successes. So maybe you can take a little bit of that. Maybe you can copy me. Maybe you can comment about it, okay? But not everyone's life is identical. So that's the thing. So let's all be positive and let's all have some fun, okay? So the 80s, let me tell you something. I was growing up in a small town north of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So about an hour north of Toronto in a small town called Bradford, just north of Newmarket. It was about 2,000 people. 1 traffic light, 3 donut shops, no McDonald's, a couple pizza shops, 20 coffee shops, and a KFC and a couple Chinese food restaurants. No McDonald's, no Burger King. Closest McDonald's was 20 minutes away in Newmarket or on the highway. And no delivery back in those days. The only place that delivered was the Chinese and the pizza. So it was about 2,000 people in that small town. It was a farming community, and my house was the 3rd last house in the town. Okay. And now it's in the center of town, but back then it was right on the very edge of town. So nothing but farms and stuff. So I grew up, my parents were very liberal. They allowed us to go out and do whatever we wanted. I mean, I grew up in Mississauga first, and my parents were kind of strict for safety reasons. And also we were young, right? You know, I'm now 1978, we moved to Bradford, 1979. I remember going to middle school. I started grade 7 or grade 8. So I would have been 13. Yeah, so I was 12 or 13 when 1980, 1981 when we moved to Bradford. So I was 12 years old, just before high school. And I had never traveled at that point. I mean, other than as a child. I was born in China, grew up in Europe. Maybe I had been on vacation with my family once to maybe like a couple times to Florida. I think internationally, maybe Venezuela, we had gone once. I don't remember exactly when we went to Venezuela, but I do remember going as a young boy. So growing up in this small town, I wasn't really exposed to much multiculturalism. Now this town was predominantly Portuguese, a little bit of Italian, but for all, there was no black, no brown, no Asians, nothing. It was me and one other Indian guy and my brother. Maybe one Asian, I don't remember, but it was like nothing, like barely. It's all white. So I grew up with like rock and roll, mullet hair. I liked AC/DC, Kim Mitchell, Canadian rocker, Def Leppard, those kinds of things. Led Zeppelin, Chicago, those kinds of things, right? So, but then I don't remember how it happened, but I went to an all ages club in Newmarket, the town next door. So I had to be 16 because I had to have a car at that time. I think I discovered pop music. Oh, I remember what happened. I started working at 14 at Canada's Wonderland, which was the amusement park, like the Disney World of Canada, of Toronto. So I started working there and I got exposed to, other people and music because I worked at the concert hall there, the concert venue. So I got exposed to music and I started enjoying different kinds of music. And then I started listening to 680 CFTR on AM because they played pop music and dance music. And then eventually, when I was like 18, I eventually started working in the radio business. But anyway, and I got to know all the DJs and people in the industry and clubs, and that's how I got into the music business and the club business and blah, 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 blah. You guys can see my life history in another video. But why were the 80s the greatest? Because it was when there was no social media. You had to physically go out and talk to human beings. Now, I do remember, as the 80s progressed, we got into the pager situation. And I was one of the few of my friends who had a pager. And I had a toll-free pager. So from anywhere in North America, you could dial me. Hey guys, Sri Lankan Sammi, thanks for joining. I want to take a quick moment and talk to you about the channel. I really appreciate you taking the time to support the channel, clicking like, sharing, and commenting. But I need to ask you for a little bit of help and helping me get the channel up and running a little bit better. Please click the link down below if you want to support the channel and buy me a coconut. What I will do is I will match the dollars and I will go out and buy fresh fruit and vegetables from local farmers on the roadside. You guys have seen me do that before. I'll continue doing that by supporting the local economy. Passively, if you would like to, you can just watch a commercial. I am monetized, so if you watch an ad all the way through, a couple, that would really help the channel. And even more so, click the link of the ad and let it pop up on your computer. Leave it open for a few minutes. That would really help the channel passively. And one last thing, if you could please just put a comment, an emoji, one word saying hello, saying hi, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, Happy Vesak, Happy Poya, whatever it is, whenever it is, I truly appreciate it. Sri Lankan Sammi, loving you all. We'll see you all on the other side. I got one of those special numbers. I was also one of the first friends to get a cell phone. I had the big brick cell phone. I don't remember if it was the 80s or the 90s. I think it was probably the 90s. I think I was like 21, 22, right? But anyway, that's the 90s. I remember music being a huge part of my identity in the 80s. Life was so much simpler because the connections you had to make were physical, not digital. I mean, today I have digital relationships with people that I've never met, that I know because we have common likes. For example, my friend Chris in Angeles City, Philippines. We have a common friend, but we've never met. We both love music. He's a DJ. He's an expat. We have the same like-mindedness, right? So we hooked up on Facebook and on Instagram, and then through YouTube, and then through some investment questions that I had that he was discussing, and we talked. So we've talked on Messenger, we've talked offline, but I've never met him. Now, when I go to the Philippines this time, I might make a trip up to Angeles City to visit him and some other friends. But yeah, he's one of like hundreds of friends that I have, including you guys. I mean, look at this. You know, we're digital friends. And that's what I say is like strangers today, strangers aren't people, you know, strangers aren't strangers. They're just friends you haven't met yet. Okay? We live in a different world, but going back to like why the 80s were the best was, I think, the fact that there was no digital connection. You know, I barely phoned anyone. It would be just to ask parents' permission. But if I just wanted to go over to someone's house, I would go in the morning, knock on the door and say, let's go. We get on the bikes and go riding all day. And we would just go and then come home when the streetlights came on. It's a meme, but it was 100% true. We would get up in the morning, go drink from water hoses from whatever house we found. It didn't matter. Getting into trouble was so much easier and less risky in those days. I remember getting into mischief and not really, well, kind of worrying about it because everybody was your mother or father. They would grab you by the collar and take you home and give you a swift slap upside the head. Because everybody knew everybody in that small town, right? Especially being the only brown kid, right? I stand out like a sore thumb. Life was much simpler because our world was much smaller. And although I will say that, yeah, the 80s were the best, I love living in the digital modern world because I am able to find information, I am able to do things on a global scale, and I am able to travel, and my knowledge of the world I appreciate so much more. I know people, and this is not their fault, and I'm not shaming them or anything, but I feel, I don't know if the word is guilty or sad, but I feel something for these people who have never left their hometown. Never. I look on my Facebook and on my Instagram and whatever, and these people are still in the hometown. You know, they're still in the hometown. They're still, I have no idea if they've ever traveled. And then another thing is like, you know, you'll see, oh, can't wait to go on vacation. I'm the same way, but my vacation is 6 months long. My vacation is 3 months long. They have 1 week. And they're like, oh, so glad to be back. And I'm like, I feel sadness that they work all their lives for that 1 week, right? But that's not this story. This story is about why the 80s were the best. And I guess what I'm saying is that the digital construct has reduced that intimacy that we had in the 80s. It was much more pure, right? It's much more pure. It's much more simple. And, you know, we were much more ignorant, right? Nothing is perfect. I'm not saying the 80s were perfect. I'm saying we were ignorant We were simpler. Were we better? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you. That if I had kids and I needed to raise kids, I would have raised them in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. If I had been born 10 years earlier, I think I would have been a little bit more successful. 10 years earlier or 10 years later. I was born in that transition period where you start to learn things and then that technology disappears. So yeah, but for me as a teenager in the 80s, I wish I was sometimes a little older, because then I would have been able to get into the music industry a little earlier and taken advantage of those opportunities. Or if I was born a little bit later, I would have been able to take advantage of the digital revolution. Because at that time I had already invested time into my career. I couldn't pivot at that time. Anyway, the 80s, they were, in my opinion, the best. What do you guys think? Do you agree? When were you born? What decade do you believe was the best? Or what decade were you a teenager? 14 to 18. Those are the times where we, become independent, where we exert our independence and grow up. And I want to know what you think was the best for you. For me, from the age of 14 to 18, I was given tons of freedom. I had a car, I got to travel around, I got to meet people, I got to experience life. I did things I don't regret, but I was mischievous. I'm not going to go into details, but I was mischievous. I did a lot of things that I don't regret, but no, I don't regret, but you would probably say you shouldn't have done that. Taking the car and going someplace I'm not supposed to, drinking, experimenting with drugs, socializing, those kinds of things, going to places I shouldn't have gone. Those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about. Nothing illegal, just mischievous. Never drank and drove. I was too smart for that, way too smart for that, and too scared of my parents. But experimenting and those kinds of things, and being mischievous with friends and going to places I shouldn't go, and doing things I shouldn't do. Yeah, but that's all a part of growing up, right? The 50s had it, the 60s had it, the 70s had it, and I was in the 80s. So that's my story, guys. I really want to thank you so much for joining me. I have this little saying: learn to live life, don't let life live you. And what that means is, don't have a bucket list. Live your life today. Don't let life control you. Do what you want when you want. And remember, always be good to each other, okay? Please, be good to each other. Life is not worth the drama or the stress. And I will see you all on the other side. I'm Sri Lankan Sammi, retired with mom and dad. Thanks for joining.